In the absence of a quorum of the members of the Victorville City Council, I hereby convene the meeting of the 5 o'clock closed session of the Council of the City of Victorville. There was only one item scheduled for discussion on the closed session agenda tonight concerning an existing litigation item with SEC versus City of Victorville and Southern California Logistics Airport Authority. It has been determined that there is no need to discuss this meeting in closed session tonight, and this meeting is therefore being canceled. The regular meeting scheduled for 6 p.m. will convene as normal. Oh, that's it.
That one was at our community.
Marcy doesn't have the screen. Thank you. I tried to do it myself last time and I screwed it up. So.
Get my microphone on. Welcome, everyone. This is the October 20th meeting of the Victorville City Council. Ending the meeting and coming down. Called the meeting to order here. We normally have a 5 o'clock executive session. We did not today, and so ready to go at the 6 o'clock meeting. And Madam Clerk, would you have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Kennedy?
Here.
Councilmember McEachron?
Here.
Councilmember DeGrady?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox?
Here.
Mayor Garcia's absence is noted.
We will not have a report by the city attorney. We did not have an executive session, and at this point in time, we will have the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And is Mr. David Peterson of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here? He is, if he'll come up. And Sam Lucia, there's Sam, and so remain standing after the invocation, and we'll have the pledge.
Our dear, kind, and gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this opportunity we have to gather here as free citizens in this wonderful country. We're so grateful for our opportunity to live in this wonderful land, and we're grateful for the time and the energy that our civic leaders put in looking out for our best interests and watching out over us. And we ask that thy blessing will be upon them this evening as they discuss these matters, that they will have clarity of mind and that they will have thy inspiration in choosing the best paths and choices that to help this city and this community continue to grow and find peace and prosperity in our midst. And this is our prayer, and we do it in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Bishop Peterson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
thank you. And thank you, Sam. We have a presentation. I will come down front. And Chris Douglas, principal of the Victor Valley High School, is here. If you'll meet me down front, please. I've been here a long time, but I didn't realize until I looked at this proclamation how long Victor Valley High School had been here. I was really surprised. So I'm going to present this proclamation on behalf of the mayor for the city council, and then when I finish, I know you'll have some words. Whereas on September 15, Victor Valley High School was established, marking the beginning of a long history of tradition as well as green and white pride. And whereas together the staff and students of Victor Valley High School has not only come together in an institution, but also as a family where everyone supports one another because it is the Jackrabbit way. I'm not going to comment further on that. Whereas the staff and the students of Victor Valley High School all come from different backgrounds, yet are all the same because pride is not limited to what the eye can see. And whereas the Victor Valley High School family is like a chain with no weak links. They're stronger than they have ever been. They will never be broken, and their efforts will forge an unbreakable bond for years to come. Now, therefore, I, Jim Cox, on behalf of the Mayor, Gloria Garcia, and the Victorville City Council, do hereby join members of the staff, high school staff, members of the audience, in congratulating Victor Valley High School. Wow, 1915. Congratulations.
Okay, on behalf of the students at Victor Valley Union High School, as well as the staff and the parents and our school board, I would like to thank the City Council for recognizing Victor Valley High School for a centennial recognition.
I came to Victorville in 1964. I'm a graduate of Victor Valley High School. This is my 31st year at Victor Valley High School. And it's also my last year at Victor Valley High School. So it's been a great honor to serve Victor Valley High School and the Victor Valley High School community. Thank you.
Thank you for the hard work. Thank you for all you have done. We're proud of our schools in this community, and keep up the good work. Go Jackrabbits.
You know, I'd be remiss in not commenting on this. I come from a divided family. My father graduated from Victor Valley High School in, I believe it was 1967. My mom from Alp Valley High School in 1971, and I was born in 73. But the rivalry continues, even in my own household. And just to get it on the record, my father did not shut down your high school by soldering the locks to all the classrooms in 1967. So he has been blamed for that on several occasions, and I know that's legendary. I just like to make sure that I got it out there publicly that he didn't do it.
I, too, would also like to thank the principal and superintendent for coming out today. When I did attend the 100-year anniversary, I was a little shocked myself that was 100 years. And I did go to Victor Valley High School for 1 year. And at that time, Principal Douglas was our football coach on the defensive side. So it's just great to be able to come together and celebrate this anniversary. But I'm really hoping that some of our future leaders are at that school right now and have also gone through that school and through our community, and hopefully at one time they will contribute back to the community, just like I have and most of us have. It's just a great day. Thank you.
I have to add that I have two children who graduated, adult children, as you can imagine. A dad graduated from Victor Valley High School, and probably one thing none of you knew was that Jim Cox was in the original graduating class at Victor Valley High School.
That's just a low blow.
Wow. Wow.
A low blow.
Little
Well,
known fact.
Little known fact.
I don't get mad. I just get even. Now we'll continue on with the more serious business of the council.
How many of your kids graduated from Victor Valley High School?
All of them.
6?
Oh, gosh. 4. And 1, and then 2 from Christian schools that were different. I have Baptist, Catholics, and Adventists all in my family. Graduated from different schools. Item A1, this is an appeal hearing, and so Mr. Youssef, is that correct? He had requested that we continue this, and the city clerk has informed me that the notice could have been better, and therefore we agree to continue that. We do have to open the appeal hearing. We do take testimony. For the record, anyone that's here to speak for or against can do so. But at the end of taking that testimony, we will continue this. And Madam Clerk, continue until what date?
Tuesday, November 3rd.
Tuesday, November 3rd. With that a notification, I will open the appeal hearing on item A1. This is an appeal of the Planning Commission's decision to uphold the previous denied decision by the zoning administrator, case number ADM 15-00048. This is a minor conditional use permit requested for alcoholic beverage sales in conjunction with a convenience store which does not comply with the Victorville Municipal Code standards with an environmental exemption on the property located at 14592 Palmdale Road. These will get complicated, and I'll read the whole thing, but certainly the applicant understands the issues, and there may be other individuals who want to speak on that. So I have a card from the applicant in case questions come up. Otherwise, I understand that you will be here at the next meeting and you'll give the testimony at that time. Is that correct? Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Seeing none and having no cards, will this require a motion of the council, or can I, as the chair, just continue?
As a chair, you can just continue this hearing.
Okay, we'll continue this meeting until the date previously stated by the city clerk. Unless there's any questions from staff or council, we'll move to the next item. Next item is a public hearing. It's item B1. It's a public hearing and ordinance of the City Council, City of Victorville. I thought these were going to be continued. No?
These were previously, the urgency ordinance was previously continued because we need 4 votes as an urgency ordinance. We definitely want to take action on these items if possible. The purpose is obviously to expand the definition as to the regulation of synthetic drugs. So,
all right. Okay, this is not a continued hearing. This is a public hearing. Is that correct, Mr. City Attorney?
I believe these were opened and continued.
I thought they were, but that's what it was. You didn't.
Yes, the urgency ordinance was continued from a previous meeting.
Right. So you have the urgency this evening, and then you have the regular mirror ordinance as well. But you could open the public hearing on both items simultaneously as long as it's
clear. Is the mirror item the next item, number 2?
B1 and B2 are related.
Okay. I'll open the hearing on both those items. I do not have any cards or any notice of anyone speaking on either one of those items. But the hearing is open. I see no one to come forward, so at this point, I can close this hearing.
You can close the hearing, and I would request actually separate motions just because the urgency ordinance can stand by itself and will not need a second reading.
All right. I will close the hearing on both items. We'll take B1 first. Madam Clerk.
An urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville amending Chapter 13.130 Synthetic Stimulants and Synthetic Cannabinoids to Title 13 of the Victorville Municipal Code prohibiting synthetic drugs with an environmental exemption and declaring the urgency thereof pursuant to Government Code Section 36937.
Before we vote, I want the attorney to make it clear what the action the council takes to make this effective.
We need a fourth-fifth vote to adopt this urgency ordinance, and it would become effective immediately.
Okay? So do we have a motion?
Adoption and waive further reading.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Motion by Mr. McEachron, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
We then will move to the next item, which was the joint item. Clerk?
Ordinance number 2348, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville amending Chapter 13.130 Synthetic Stimulants and Synthetic Cannabinoids to Title 13 of the Victorville Municipal Code prohibiting synthetic drugs with an environmental exemption.
And the city attorney has the same advice on this? Requires a four-fifths vote or not?
No, this one is a regular ordinance. However, it requires a second reading, which will occur on the November 3rd agenda, and then it would not become effective for 30 days thereafter. That's why we have both ordinances on.
Do we have a motion?
To
For adoption, but I can't waive further
Waive
reading?
further reading and introduce.
Yes, you have a motion to adopt and waive further reading.
A motion.
second.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion by Mr. McEachron, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
We now have the consent calendar. Any additional information or any questions in regard to the consent calendar? If there is not, then all of those can be taken with one motion, and that is through 1 through 10.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Written communications. The first item is CDBG grant contract award to furnish, deliver, and install 4 new HVAC units at the city library. Is there any additional comments or information from the staff?
Just that we're proud to present this item. Over the last 3 years, we've had several projects. This is the latest, obviously. But last year, we put on a new roof, and the year before that, we had new lighting installed in the parking areas and the common areas of the library.
Question on this, Doug. I was stunned by the range on these proposals. And I know staff went out and did a little extra work to make sure. I mean, that proposal is less than half than of 2 of them, and was only 2/3 of the second number. And I get real uncomfortable with somebody who's that far off center.
Christian Gunther, our Director of Community Services, can answer that. I suspect it has to do with...
I'm only worried about what's going to fail, what isn't going to work, what's going to need a
Right.
change order, all that kind of stuff.
Christian?
Agreed. Made me nervous as anything. When I saw those numbers, it was surprising. In fact, I turned to our purchasing division, said, could you please verify the numbers? And the contractor was given an opportunity to take a second look, and we verified it, and that's really what we can do. So we've done our best to verify it and do our due diligence.
Staff has completed its due diligence. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion second. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Item number 2, award of contract to Lee and Stiers, Inc. in the amount of $350,037.40 with the Spring Valley Lake Parkway Pavement Rehabilitation Project, Bear Valley Road to Huerta Road. Any questions of staff? I thought we'd have some people from Bear Valley Lake here giving this award, but I guess not. Are
I'll
there,
go ahead and move for approval.
Well, my question on this is, why is the project cost so different from the project budget?
question?
The original project that was spec'd was much less of a project. It was not as deep as this one. It wasn't as permanent of a repair. When we first began discussing this with the county and with the Spring Valley Lake Association, we were looking at almost a temporary 5-year project, and this, upon further discussion, we were able to get this much of a project done, is my understanding. Brian, you want to add some color to that?
That's true, and then added to that, we were working on an agreement with the association at Spring Valley Lake and also the county. When we put the money in the budget, we said we're going to initially put in $75,000 for our share. We didn't have an agreement yet. Then later we worked out an agreement with those two entities, and they put in $75,000, another $100,000. And we knew after we worked with the county on it that our estimate was going to go up because we hadn't really defined what we were going to do out there. Then after we put the estimate together, we adjusted the estimate. So at that time, we really didn't know what the project scope was going to be.
Is anything going to go undone because of this $275,000 that we didn't budget?
No, we're gonna rehab the whole road. It'll be the whole road within our city limits.
Any other projects? Will this encroach or infringe on any other projects?
No, it won't. It's really a standalone project, so it'll start from Bear Valley Road and go all the way up to our city limit. It doesn't really encroach on any other project we're doing.
Yeah, but we don't have another project that, as Brian was saying, that is going to be impacted by the use of these funds. So.
Right.
Motion for approval by Mr. McEachron.
Waiting for a second. I'll second.
Second by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
The ratification of the acceptance of grant agreement 3-06-0359-023-2015 in the amount of $6,011,164. Any questions of staff or any additional comments by staff?
We've been talking about this project for some time. Is this new money that just fell out of the sky from the federal government, or have we known this was coming?
We did not know this additional amount of $1.37 million was coming. We had been previously awarded funds, the $6 million less the 1.3, and then as FAA closes out their fiscal year, they identify any leftover funds that they have for the AIP program. And because our project is deemed ready, it's designed and ready to be constructed, they start prioritizing any residual funds in their AIP program for projects that are actually ready to break ground. So because of the readiness of our project, we're effectively switching gears. We're about to close out, nearing the closeout of the reconstruction of portions of 321. We're effectively going to switch over to the north-south runway, which is your primary runway, and start hitting some real hot spots on that area. So this amount is supplement to a previous award, and will allow us to take on a larger scope of work out there.
Okay.
Move
Thank you.
approval.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
The item number 4, construction agreement for qualified emergency electrical contractor, project ES 16-026. I think for clarity, would someone just give a brief, Keith, would you please give just a brief reason for this, because it's covering 2 different departments, as I understand, water and airport?
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity. This item is essentially being brought to the council, piggybacking on a purchasing process undertaken by the Public Works Department, and more specifically the VMUS division. of the Public Works Department, and it's dealing with our need for on-call high voltage electrical services, and we have high voltage running through a large part of our airport, particularly the lighting system. So effectively what's happening here is, because the original contract that went through the city's procurement process with Public Works was for the order of about $10,000, and because we're actually adding an amount that's equivalent to my purchasing authority and the city manager's purchasing authority, because the collective contract amount exceeds our purchasing authority, is the only reason why we're really bringing this back. So effectively, we're piggybacking on an existing contract that involves another department. This will be for services, supplemental services that benefit the airport.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? If not, we're ready for a motion. Motion?
Second?
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Agenda item number 5. This is just to be removed, not continued, but removed, and we'll come back at a later time. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
There's no action, no discussion. The matter is removed from the agenda. Agenda item number 6. No, it's not on that one. Resolution of the City Council of the City of Victorville, California, consenting to the inclusion of properties within the territory of the city in the CSCDA open space programs, authorizing the California Statewide Communities Development Authority to accept applications from property owners, conduct contractual assessment proceedings, and levy contractual assessments within the territory of the city, and authorizing related action. But staff, would you please explain what that means?
What this is provides another option to residents. Currently working through the Sandbag organization and the PACE program that they monitor. Residents, homeowners are able to finance solar projects and other energy efficiency projects on their property taxes. And this would be a second service provider for those services. The city's only role here is to actually pass the resolution. It's a buyer beware type of contract. The city isn't endorsing any of these businesses. They have been vetted by Sandbag staff, but in order for them to be eligible, for our residents to be eligible to use the program with this service provider, you would need to adopt the resolution that's attached.
So the action of the council merely allows the property owners this availability if they want to do it.
That is correct.
If I might, on both agenda items D6 and D7, I'd ask the council to continue this at least for a minimum of 30 days. Being president of Sandbag and having dealt with this program, and also understanding some concerns of the real estate industry and how it affects the sale of existing properties, it's become quite an issue that I have been dealing with on an ongoing basis. Nothing has been resolved with the existing organization that Sandbag and the city have recognized, or the rest of the cities in the county. And to bring someone new on is just going to cause some problems until we can get that issue resolved. So if the council's agreeable to it, I would request that we at least get a 30-day continuance, if that's appropriate, from the city attorney, because at this point, I can't support this, just knowing that we have so many problems with the issue.
I don't see a problem with it. Probably be helpful to have a motion on, making a motion to continue both of those two items.
All right, then I would.
But can we do them separately? Because I do have a card for an individual who may want to. Let me ask a question first. Jacob Kearns, is it only if there are questions that you would speak, or did you want to speak on agenda item 7? Well, we're not there yet. We were going to handle them together, but we'll handle them separately.
We can handle them separately. I'm fine with that.
That's fine. Just
all right.
I would ask the council to continue agenda item D6 until our second council meeting in November.
Since Mr. McEachran does represent the city on Sandbag, I would concur with his request.
That's a motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Now,
None op-
agenda item 7, you indicated that you'd request that that be continued also for a lot of the same reasons, I'm assuming.
Correct.
But we do have a card. Did you want to speak to this, Mr. Kearns? Would you come up, please?
Good evening, Council. I come on behalf of White Green Energy Fund. We're part of the GSFA. It's the item that's before you, D7. It's on your agenda because Sandbag reached out to the cities and recommended our program and said, this is another available option. We've done some things within White Green to resolve some of the issues that are pressing with the real estate community in regard to, one, a bulk assessment lien that goes on the property owner's title through the current offerings from every other company but us, essentially. So under Assembly Bill 811, they have to put a bulk assessment lien on the property and then a separate annual tax amount. That creates a problem because when you refinance your home, they want you to pay off the bulk assessment lien prior to refinancing, selling your home. So the real estate community sees that as a hindrance to the flow of properties turning over. Within our company, we made an amendment to the Mello-Roos Act, Assembly Bill 555, which allowed us to just be a single, clean, special tax assessment on the property owner's title. The real estate community is very familiar with Mello-Roos and special tax assessments. Typically it's not a debt service issue with these type of assessments. So we've cleared the way for that issue. There's a lot of other things in the back end that we've done really to improve upon our program. I'm open for questions. Obviously, I want to see the issue continued. If there's anything I can answer for you, I would love to do it.
And just to be clear, this has nothing to do or is focused on you or your company, or quite frankly, we've had requests from other companies as well at Sandbag to do the same thing. This is a much broader issue, and I'm hoping that we can get this resolved so that I'm all for increased competition. I want you in there. I want anybody else that wants to be in that space here at the table in Victorville as well as countywide. But there are some serious problems that have to be resolved with the real estate industry, and until I have a comfort level from them with respect to this program, they don't like PACE as a general concept. They are very frustrated with it. They can't sell homes. And as much as the existing hero vendor is providing, all the assurances in the world, I can't seem to get both on the same page. So until I can figure that part out, I think it behooves the city council to just hold off. And once we get that resolved, then I'm all for you being a part of this as well as anybody else. So.
I believe you may have been at the meeting. It was approximately a month ago. Hero came and did a presentation where they declared they would be subordinate to any loan ahead of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac asking for their money. Essentially, that subordination sort of calmed the waters with the Realtors Association. They put out a press release stating as such. Really, I guess specifically what the issue would be, I guess I could address that for you. But the broad just not liking PACE it's sort of a moving target for me because I just don't know how to answer your question, I guess.
Yeah, I talked to the president of our High Desert Realtors Association before this meeting.
Yeah.
Not happy with it still. So there's not a meeting of the minds, regardless of what may have occurred in the last month. And I've been assured that things were fine, and then I hear completely different stories. So I just don't want this council to approve something and then have the real estate industry come back and chastise us for doing something that they're not in favor of. We need to figure this out. We need to make sure that it works. And going forward, I'm all for you being a part of it as well as any other company being a part of it, because increased competition just benefits the consumer, benefits our residents and constituents. So I'm just asking for 30 days. I need to have that time to work through this.
We will-
And
we
I
will-
believe most of the council received an email from me at your Victorville address. I would love to field any of those questions that you have and work with the president. Obviously, we want you to be comfortable with the program, and we think we've done our due diligence to vet any real estate issues.
Anything you'd like to submit, go ahead and submit that to the city so that we can have a chance to review it. But I have heard that it's okay, it's not okay, and we try to take an action to assist homeowners. We have to make sure we're right. The last thing we want to do is take an action trying to help and end up complicating things for everyone. So I don't think a 30-day delay is going to hurt. Hopefully we can get it done by then, but if not, we will delay it again because this is important.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting that the program is 100% voluntary as well. So
We
the,
know.
the protection layer there is really, did they make the decision to opt in for this tax and to get the tax benefit? That's really right.
Yeah, completely. And it's a lot of that disclosure stuff that people, they sign their life away when they're signing on a loan, and then they don't really read the documents. How many of us have ever done that? It's very problematic that it gets to a point where then they try to sell their home, and then they have this issue, and it's causing all kinds of problems with those transactions. I need to get that resolved. Once I do,
Absolutely.
then I'm all for you being part of this program. And believe you me, there are other people knocking on our door at Sandbag wanting to be a part of this program beyond you. So this becomes an issue of it's best for the consumer if we can have more people a part of the program. I just want to make sure that we have those issues resolved before we move forward.
And this is one of our counterparts.
And we're not going to resolve it in a discussion tonight.
No, we're not.
It's
I'm getting
impossible.
that point.
It
Oh,
won't be resolved tonight because, quite frankly, this is not germane to you as a company. This is germane to the PACE program itself, and FHA and the lenders have got to implement those regulations to cause things to fix themselves as it relates to this program. Until they do, it's going to continue to be a problem. And so I don't know how I fix it before the federal government fixes it. I believe it's going to continue to be a problem.
I'll let him announce himself, but this is Jonathan.
Listening to what we're saying?
Absolutely.
Really, this is not the night to try to have
we're not gonna get it done tonight.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Kevlis. I'm with the California First PACE program. We're under the Open PACE umbrella that you see in your packet. My apologies for coming in late. I had a little car trouble, so I'm sorry about that. So I'm coming in this conversation a bit late, but what I glean, I think there's some discussion about the challenges that some property owners have that have a PACE lien on their property in refinancing or selling because of the FHFA concerns. Am I correct in catching up here? Again, my apologies for coming in late today. Is that the substance? So the HERO program, one of our competitors, created something called a subordination, and we have created the same thing too. If a property owner has a challenge refinancing his or her property, or if a buyer trying to purchase a property with a PACE lien attached to it has a challenge getting financing from a lender, then we offer the refinancer or the buyer a subordination option, whereby we place the PACE lien in secondary position behind the first mortgage, which relieves the challenge of the of FHFA and FHA as well, where they have a concern if there is a default, who gets paid first. So it certainly relieves that problem. We offer it if there is that challenge that a refinancing homeowner has or that a buyer has in trying to purchase a home. It takes maybe about 15 business days to implement, so well within the period that a property owner is in escrow. Like all PACE assessments, like all property tax assessments, the assessments appear quite clearly on the title report, so it can be made evident quite quickly that our problem may arise. So we hope that with this feature in place to protect the homeowner and make it easier for the homeowner to sell or refinance, that you will consider opting into our program.
We're going to consider that in 30 days. I think you missed the first part of that.
Thank
you. Any other comments?
Be appropriate to have a motion to continue it for 30 days.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, and members of the council, just as for information's sake, city staff did advise the representatives from those two items that of Ryan's role on Sandbag, and that there had been concerns at the Sandbag level, and that the city staff would not be in a position to try to defend any new programs put in place to assist with any subordination issues. So I'm not surprised at all by your actions tonight, and if you'd like staff to assist with the real estate community, reaching out to them to see if they're comfortable with these contracts, we can do that, or if you'd like to handle it, either way is fine.
Yeah, I think for the council's benefit and for staff's benefit, I'm not looking for additional council involvement or staff involvement. I think this becomes an issue that has to be resolved at the larger level at Sandbag. And until that's resolved, I wouldn't expect our city to adopt it, let alone any other city in the county or the county board of supervisors. So I want to see additional competition, additional providers, but I have to get this issue resolved. And I was told tonight, literally before this meeting, by Becky Otwell that it's not resolved. So until I have assurance from her,
I agree. I hope that the two individuals who have spoken, we have their information. We can contact them when this comes back on the agenda. I don't want it prematurely on the agenda so that people travel long distances and then get it continued again. So I think we have to rely on our representative to Sandbag, Mr. McEachran, to let us know when we're prepared to move on this. And it'll be 30 days, or as
November 17th would be the second
November
meeting.
17, and if we know prior to November 17 that we're not going to take an action, please notify everyone ahead of that day so that we don't. I would hate to travel long distance to a meeting and then have it continued, so it's frustrating for everyone.
Great.
We will do our best. So this action is to continue it, and we are now on item number 8. Sewer and recycled water rate and capacity fee study. Any questions of staff?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
The next item, 9, is agreement to provide the citywide computer software system for permitting, licensing, code enforcement, and work orders. Are there any questions of staff?
Well, I have one. It's almost $1 million we're going to spend on this system. I don't know what we spent on that budget system that Janelle worked up, but we had quite a presentation on what that was going to do. We're making a major software acquisition here. Not that any of us on this council is qualified to evaluate it. I don't claim that. But I think I would like to see some kind of a summary presentation of what it's going to do. Summary is what I had in mind.
I think Kevin, our building official, is prepared to speak to the item. We don't have a PowerPoint presentation necessarily, or maybe we do.
We do.
We do. So, we weren't sure. Sometimes the council gets a little impatient with presentations, I'll say. So, but
we might get impatient with yours, but
we might. Yeah,
we'll keep it brief. Very
it can
brief.
be summarized
it's
pretty quickly.
It's a
I think.
huge project you've got here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd
Good
like to know
evening,
something.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Tonight, if the council approves, the days of wasting time producing plans such as this, bringing them into the city, to the counter, and submitting them are going to be a thing of the past. We're about to take a big step forward with Intergov, and by replacing and updating our city permitting, licensing, code enforcement, and work order software. Not only will Intergov save developers, businesses, and residents time and money, but Intergov will provide around-the-clock access, online access to plan submittals, status of plan reviews, inspections, issuance of those permits online, issuance of license and renewals online, and then reporting complaints, potholes, graffiti, and other nuisance. To sum this up, we'll go from having to carry these large sets of plans in to just going and conducting from your home or office, all from here. And now at this time, I'd like to introduce Chuck Newberry with Intergov, and he'll show some of the capabilities that Intergov can do.
Good evening. And I'm sorry, what was your name again? Chuck Newberry.
W-B-E-R-R-Y. And I appreciate Mr. Kennedy's concerns, because if I was spending that money, I would actually want to see what we're purchasing, right? And a lot of times when you hear software procurement, you don't really see it because you have to build these systems, et cetera. So I took the liberty at their request, Kevin's request, and I built you guys something yesterday so that hopefully you can see some concepts of what could be provided and what's going to allow this software to do everything that Kevin just talked about, right? Connecting your constituents, providing the necessary transparency, allowing them to apply for applications online, at home, et cetera, and essentially be able to do business from anywhere. And that's the goal. We want to mobilize not only our constituents, but also our internal force for inspections and things of that nature. So I'll focus your attention. Hopefully you guys can see my screen on the monitor. You see here, there's a portal. You see it? Perfect. So what you're looking at right here is I'll focus on the constituent piece, right, where we're going to turn to our public and say, hey, here's what we've invested in. This is a portal that allows them to either log in or not log in and to find information and retrieve information and submit applications across all of your departments, whether it be for a submission of a work order or a request or a pothole fill or graffiti fix, et cetera, or maybe it's for a conditional use permit like we heard earlier in this meeting, or it's for an annexation, et cetera. All those elements can all start here, go to your back office staff, be approved, et cetera, with all the necessary communications. And I'll show you a couple of these. Here is where we could come in and search for information. So if I just performed, a general search and I wanted to see everything on my street, there's everything on my road, my location, my parcel, my address, and I can see if my neighbor Kevin's building a fence over there that he shouldn't be building, and I could report him and allow your code enforcement officers to manage them accordingly, right? Or maybe if I'm a simple constituent that's out in the field and I wanted to come here to Civic Drive and say, hey, let's report an action here real quick. I could come in and say, yes, let's go to that location, search for it, and let's create a request. And that request could be, hey, there's a pothole, there's an animal in the road, there's a leaking hydrant, et cetera. You guys get the gist. They can submit these. Boom, it comes in. It notifies your back office staff, and now they can start building their staff to go out and service these elements as well. Okay? And then other pieces, like Kevin was talking about, this big roll of this plan set here, the old school methodology of having these and having rooms where we store those. Well, we're going to allow your customers to submit those online, view those online, so they could come to those same portals and they could say, show me the plan sets and what departments are reviewing them. And if I want to look at those plan sets, I can simply come in, click on the file, and I can launch that set, and I can see the comments and the markups and do compare features where I'm overlaying version controls of those plans. And then your customers, meaning your staff, are able to mark those up and submit those back. So hopefully we can start saving your constituents money by the laborious process of submitting and resubmitting and having corrections, et cetera, no longer having to bring these in and do business right here at a counter.
What other cities in the high desert are using this kind of technology?
So we have multiple agencies around California. Specifically, we have LA County, Riverside, Lake Forest, Encinitas, Carlsbad, Daly City, Redding, Tulare County, Clovis, California.
But not here in the desert.
That might be a question for Kevin. This gentleman's talking specifically about his own product, Munis. Kevin, do you know if any of the other cities up here have electronic processing like this?
None of the cities up here are using this program. I think Hesperia, they're using Excella.
Okay.
But they have online submittals?
As far as online submittals, no. I don't believe they have any of that yet. And that's one of our goals, is being able to submit all your plans online, pulling all your permits online, to where you can do that 24/7, to where you have access If you want to submit your plans on a Saturday, you can submit them on a Saturday.
Will this be able to tell the person who submitted the plan where it is in the process, who's got it, how long they've had it?
Absolutely.
That's probably one of the best parts of this. The property owner, the contractor, the architect, they'll all have that information.
Make it hard to just go in and die somewhere.
Yeah, so they'll be able to track it from where it hits to where we route it, to where every single plan review activity is conducted, to all the way to permit issuance, and then they can even do their scheduling. The inspections, the inspectors will have an iPad out in the field. It'll all be live, so they'll know once they got that inspection was passed.
And anybody can access this online. I can do it.
As far as that permit, you'll have to register and be either the property owner, the contractor, the architect for that plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general.
As a council member, could we not get that information, though?
As council members, you can also have
Okay.
that information.
You know, this is a double-edged sword for the development community. I mean, it's a great thing because when they come complaining to us, we can go right to here and say, you know, either it's happening or it's not. It also goes back to staff. You either are doing it or you are not doing it. To your point about someone registering building a fence in their front yard that they shouldn't be building, likely they're not actually permitting that and registering it with the city. But no, I mean, I like this. I think it gives us information. You know, it occurs on an often basis, at least with me. I don't know about with the rest of the council, where someone will come in and say, you know, I've been stuck in engineering, I've been stuck in planning, you know, for odd numbers of weeks or months or whatever the case may be. My question to staff would be this. All things being equal, understanding that we're not in a huge development time right now, this is great because, you know, you can play around with this and we can kind of see in real time how things are working their way through the process. But when things get busy again, can you give me a sense of how this is going to actually improve workflow and reduce the amount of time? So if it took 2 years to get a tentative track map through the process in development and engineering back in 2006, 2007, and that was a reality. I remember very well fighting that issue. What will it take in the same type of development period at some point in the future when we have that much activity going on with this new system?
Well, it's going to streamline everything as far as that. As far as having to make those copies, submitting them, it's going to take less manpower in order to be able, everyone will have access to how long it's taking. If they're falling behind on plan checks, if that does happen, if we hit that boom again, then that just clearly shows that we're going to have to get more staff on that. But it'll be documented from when those plans hit the counter to where that plan reviewer for each portion, either being engineering, planning, building, reviewing that, it'll be documented on there and how long it took them to review it. So we'll know if it's getting held up, we'll know exactly
where it's getting held up at.
And then once
I
we
think
see
if
that, we
nothing
can
else,
address
that's the most beneficial part of this, because if there's some cog in the wheel, we'll be able to figure it out and,
Right, and it will
address
be
it.
all transparent and out there.
In addition to that, the system has automation built in, so instead of someone having to go look and find where things are being bogged down, they can get auto-notified. Hey, this case has been open for more than 30 days, why? So they're getting prompted more from a proactive standpoint as opposed to a reactive going in and looking and trying to figure out where something is.
And that's one of the biggest tools that I'm really looking forward to. Set a timestamp on there, well, it will either send you an email, a text, or both. So you'll be notified if something is getting held up in there, what's going on, and you'll be able to research.
What's the timeline to get this up and running?
My timeline, I've been told it's kind of unrealistic, but I'm excited to get this on there. But I'd like to see us within 6 months, at least issuing permits on there. I think it's going to take longer to get all the tweaks to go, like the big picture, to being able to issue, single-family residence permits online. I think that's going to take more of the 24-month period. But in 6 months, my goal is to get where we're issuing permits using that system, taking the submittals electronically, and we're also using it in the field.
Well, this needs to be done. agree. The second thing is we're not in a really busy time. Well, we're busy, but we don't have that growth where we're lined up every morning coming in with plans. But if we wait too long, it may interfere with that because all of our indications that growth is coming. So
You talked about a work order system. We're talking about maintenance work orders.
That would be with Public Works and.
Are we going to have a full system of all the valves and all the pipelines and all the sewer lines and everything is going to be in this, and we're going to have some idea of when they were last replaced and when they were last tested and that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yep.
I was under the impression that we already had this capability. I apologize, but I thought Chris had mentioned this capability earlier. Was that on something else, or was it related? I thought you're... Okay.
We previously, under the Tidemark system, had some communications electronically. I mean, you could schedule electronically. But nothing nearly this robust. Everything was still paper plans. Did have some automation to it, though. You could phone in and schedule, from your phone.
Does this include mobile apps? So, you've got us at our city website here, but if someone's on their smartphone and they're driving around and they, see a pothole and they want to take a picture and say, this is where I ran into it at, and can send it in the city, is that included in this program?
Absolutely. This technology is what's called HTML5 based, so it's platform agnostic. I can run it from this laptop, I can run it from a mobile phone, from an iPad.
Okay. Because I think that's important. I mean, most people are not on computers these days. They're on their mobile phones, they're on iPads, whatever. And we've, graffiti, issues with roads, all that type of stuff.
Mentioned graffiti specifically,
Yeah.
actually, that once it's up and operating, residents will be able to take a picture of the graffiti. Smartphones now stamp that with GPS coordinates. So no matter how well or poorly they describe the location, the staff will know. And having a photo that's sent to them, they'll be able to assess whether this is a high priority item. I mean, there's certain types of graffiti that rise to the top of the level if there's profanity, if there's very specific gang, indication or something like that. It's going to get taken care of quicker than something that's, more out of sight and just a nuisance. So we're looking forward to that capability, as well as just being able to interact better with our constituents, with our residents.
Well, I'm all for it, and I assume, Doug, we budgeted for this.
We did, actually. Part of the budget was an electronic permit fee. So this is going to be paid for by the permits that people are submitting. In fact, it was supported by the development community, by the developers, because they recognize how much time and money it's going to save them not having to produce 3 sets of plans that look like that, send a staff member or a courier to bring them to City Hall. They can literally get done with their plans on their computer and 10 minutes later have them submitted and get into the process.
Go figure. Government's going green. We're not going to make people destroy trees in order to submit plans. That is ridiculous.
Because that's one set of plans, right?
For what type of project?
That's an apartment project.
And that's one set.
That's one set. They have to submit 3.
They have to submit 3 of those. And along with those, it comes 3 sets of the trust calcs, the energy calcs.
And all that can be done online, and that paper doesn't have to be printed.
Anything that be done on paper can be done.
Everything will be done on there. And some of, and then once we issue the permit, we approve the plans, you go out there. We've even had some TIs, like for Macy's, for example. The superintendent had his approved set of plans on his iPad. And my inspector came back, and he said that was the greatest thing. He said everything was easy to find. It was right there. He saw the approval stamp on it. And so I even have my inspectors there. Excited.
Right.
Look, kick the bucket.
I can't imagine this would happen, but suppose somebody got mad at me and just wanted to create problems for the city and decided they were going to make a bunch of requests. Just make them up. Do you have any experience of that kind of thing happening?
As far as inspections, no.
Maintenance, fix potholes.
Oh, that? Yeah. I think how it comes in, they'll have the capabilities of submitting those, but We'll have to review them before we actually send.
Do they have to give you a name, address, and all that kind of thing?
You have the option, so you can have the technology remain anonymous on those submissions if you want, so they can just submit, and then you'd have to deal with them through IP addresses and things of that nature. Or you can also force them to have an account where they actually log in, and then that way you can track their account. So if they do something like that, you could shut their account off and then stop it.
I can't imagine it would happen. I'm just.
We don't see it as much. We hear that as somewhat of a scare tactic sometimes, or someone just thinks, hey, this is going to happen. But we haven't experienced it over 300 customers running the technology at all. Never had anyone come back and go, hey, we're having a problem with X.
And who would ever get mad at one of us? Never.
Yeah, you guys.
Well, I believe, I hope, and I believe this will pay dividends to almost everyone, so.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we move
Thank you.
forward?
Thanks for your time.
Do we have a motion or yet? Do we need a motion?
I'll move approval. One that's
A
stirred up.
motion, need a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr.
You go,
Kennedy,
Mayor.
second by Mr. Negretti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Item 10, this is Bear Valley Road bicycle path from Rieta Road to Jacaranda Avenue. Any questions of staff?
I have a question real quick. I would like, if possible, I understand that this is coming from the fund, I forget what it's called right here.
LTF, Local Transportation Fund.
Right. And I assume the city's also done some work on bike lanes in the past. Is there a document that ties this all together as far as what we're doing consolidated with this? Just what the plan is? It's a bit piecemeal for me.
Yeah, we have a non-motorized plan. We can certainly get you a copy of it. This piece is one that is Apple Valley's taking the lead on, as the staff report indicates. At this point, we have several other bike paths that are planned, as we've talked about a few times. What I'd recommend is that for our next meeting, or maybe the second meeting in November, depending on schedules, actually have an update from our city engineer on all of the different bike path projects, as well as the LTF funding amounts that we have and how that's going to be used over the next few years. This was something that kind of came to us recently from Apple Valley. Apple Valley has a project that will put a bike lane, protected bike lane across the river bridge on Bear Valley Road, so that cyclists can get back and forth. There is a significant piece in Victorville that would connect it to the Riverwalk project that we got the $3.9 million grant for, and this will tie into that, as well as future planned bike lanes in both Hesperia and Victorville. So sort of a missing puzzle piece. I don't know the exact schedule for this piece. It might actually go in before some of the other bike lanes go in, but yeah, we'd be happy to update that.
Great, thanks.
And nothing else is going to get shoved aside to pay for this?
No, this is local transportation funds that can be spent on sidewalks and bicycle lanes, non-motorized transportation. It could be spent on additional bus lanes or additional busing, but we've worked very closely with VBTA to make sure that all of their needs have been met. There's a 2-year process that we go through to cover that. So there's several $1 million in that account. So I'd love to have the opportunity to update the council on it. And
Doug, I think by then the Sandbag Board will have actually approved and appropriated the funds from the 3.7 million. You're adding 200,000 to it, but whatever.
Come on, Ryan, give us a little more.
But I'm hoping that perhaps staff can talk about, with that money coming in, when we can expect to see some movement on that project, because that gives us the money that we really need to move forward on it. So, on the Riverwalk project. But with that, I'll move for approval.
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries with Mayor Garcia absent.
Thank you. We're now at item E1. This is public comments on items of interest to the public. I have one card from Margie Simpson. Come up, please.
Thank you, Council.
I can hear you.
Hello. Can you hear me yet? Margie Simpson from Victorville, and I'm an officer for a group called SWIM, Seniors with Inquiring Minds, and our group started at the college. We invited, well, first of all, we had a little bit of an argument between our members. Our members declared their water was better than Victorville's. So we put the challenge to the city, and the city sent over an engineer, and he talked to our group. And I just wanted to tell you what a great employee you have. He gave us lots of information about your water system and your recovery system, and I just wanted to let you know. Thank you for sharing him with us.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you. I do not have any other cards. I do have a lady waving a card, but I don't have it, so I'm going to kill. No, I'm not. You have requested to speak on D9, but D9 has been passed over. We've already discussed it. Well, this is the time where you can make a comment because this is the time on the agenda, public of interest to the public. So you may want to speak on D9, but it's E1, and you can come up to the microphone and make your comment.
Good evening, Council. Just very briefly, I have my own thoughts and feelings about technology, but I've had contact with previous members of the city departments, code enforcement, et cetera, so I'm kind of aware this program's coming on board. I think overall it's good, but I know it might seem like a petty and trivial point to you, but what I heard you gentlemen say, and I'm sure it was just an oversight or a lack to speak to it, is we can snap a picture of a pothole, we can GPS this, we can do this, we can do that. What I didn't hear, and is of major concern to me, as a person who sees people driving on, texting and talking on their cell phone, 4 out of 10 cars, let's just say at the intersection Beverly and Amethyst, is while we're promoting help the city get their job done, report the problems, we need to never lose sight of the fact that if you are driving with a cell phone in your hand so you can take a picture to forward to the city, your eyes are not on the road, and that is a danger to the community. That's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other cards in regard to our public comments section. The next item is report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We do have a couple of event reports. Animal Care and Control had a low-cost dog licensing and vaccination clinic this past Saturday from 8 to 12. About 75 dogs were licensed, and 94 dogs received rabies and Bordetella vaccinations. Let's see here. Community yard sale is coming up this Saturday the 10th. I'm sorry, that must have already been passed. It was held. Apologize. It was at the Hook Community Center parking lot with about 20 vendors. So that was a good success. A lot of shoppers there. Coming up this Saturday is the Community Cleanup Day. We currently have 1,020 volunteers signed up. This is the largest number we've ever had. The only time we got close to this was the one year that Disneyland was giving out free tickets to Disneyland. So I think our residents are noticing the efforts of the city and the efforts of a lot of other folks around the entire high desert to clean up, and they'd like to be a part of it. So anyway, we're very excited by that. We have 35 different groups working throughout the city this coming Saturday. Halloween morning, a week from Saturday, is a run in the park. We do that every other month. And this time it's at Hook Park at 8 a.m. There's a 3K option and a 5K option. And then a little bit further out in November, just before that event, Thursday, October 29th, at the Victorville Activity Center, the library is hosting an event. Duffy Hudson will be performing one-man show as Harry Houdini. He's been out a few times, and he has several different characters that he does, and always gets more and more folks to come each time because of the good time that they have. So that is on the 29th, Thursday the 29th. And then lastly, Veterans Day, we do have the parade again this year. Following the parade will be a dedication for a new relaxation and desert demonstration garden at the Victorville Library. Staff from the city and also volunteers from the Home Depot are in the process, or will be soon, of pulling out all of the terrible junipers that are overgrown there, and the entire front area of the library will be replaced. The turf and those junipers will be replaced with a desert demonstration garden with assistance from the Disabled American Veterans and the Home Depot staff. That dedication will follow the Veterans Day Parade on the 11th. That's all I have.
This is, we're at E3, reports from council members. Start on my left.
Sure, thank you. I was recently out at the Victor Valley Golf Course. Hadn't played in a while, and I'd just like to thank the city staff and the folks that run the golf course. Even with the limited watering that we're doing out there, the course looked really good, and I think it's a great asset that we have here in the city that, you know, most people may overlook. We have some challenges for sure, but I had a great time, and I'm going to continue using that, and I encourage the folks that are golfers out there to continue using the golf course. Long term, I can see the golf course as more of a multi-purpose asset that the city has, and I think it's, like I said, it's actually looking really good out there right now. The second thing was what I hear from the last few meetings and just in general since I've come onto the council is a lot of questions from council to staff that if we have unfunded requirements or unforeseen requirements that we perhaps maybe didn't plan for, is that going to stop us from doing something else like getting additional police or fire or whatever happens to be the case? So certainly I know I'm very concerned about that, and I heard comments from Councilmember Kennedy as such. We certainly want to know the universe of possibilities we're dealing with when we make a decision, and I really think a strategic planning working session or 2 or 3 here in advance of the next budget next year would really help us out as far as knowing what to expect 6 months from now, as far as what our plan is. I totally understand you can't plan for the unforeseen, but on the other hand, if we know what our universe of possibilities are, then we can hopefully make smarter decisions. So I would just hope, I'm not saying tomorrow, but hopefully in the next few weeks, month, there's no reason why we couldn't get started, but to put together something on the calendar for us to get together and start thinking about things strategically as opposed to one at a time.
Councilman Kennedy.
Yeah, a couple things. I think, and I echo Councilmember Negretti's comments, the smartest thing they've done on that golf course, for those of you who don't play golf, they have let the grass from the tee box out about 100 yards die. So they've stopped watering areas, and it's probably 25-30% of that golf course. So if you hit it in the junk off the tee, you kind of deserve the lousy lie you've got. But it's a real smart thing. What I want to talk about just briefly, as you know, I'm the representative to VVWRA, Victor Valley Wastewater Reclamation Authority. They obviously run the sewer plant down by the river, process sewage for Victorville, Apple Valley, Hesperia, and Spring Valley Lake. They are in the middle now. I hope they're past the middle of this Upper Narrows bypass project where they drilled underneath the mountain at Kemper Campbell Ranch, and they're now in Old Town, and they're going to cross the river and the railroad tracks, I'm not sure exactly what the alignment is. Huge project. Huge project. I don't know. Frankly, I don't remember what the original cost is. Brian, are you here? 30 million? Can you nod your head? You don't know either. Yeah, I'm not sure. Last month, we had a change order. And again, Brian, if you can remember, the number $1 million sticks in my mind. Maybe it was less. I can't remember. But another $1 million change order. I'll bet in the year this thing has been in the works, we've probably had, I wouldn't be surprised if we've had $4 or $5 million in change orders. Now, all of this stuff was bid. The designs were done. The contractors bid. At 2 or 3 critical points, they've changed their mind and decided, well, what we thought we were going to do for drilling doesn't work, so we're going to have to do something differently. Tomorrow, I voted, finally for the last time last month, I said no. I voted no on a change order because I'm so tired of how this project has been managed. And it was a 3-1 vote. The philosophy in that agency is, if you run over budget, just do a change order. I have no idea how far over budget that is. They've told Ryan that was going to be done in November. The latest, our documents for the meeting on Thursday is that it's now December. If it's done by next June, I'll be surprised. I have no idea when they'll finish it. And there's another $450,000 of change orders tomorrow, on Thursday, for construction management. Nobody seems to be accountable. And what I'm advising the council is that I'm going to vote against $450,000 of change orders. They will be approved because there'll be a 3-1 vote. What everybody in Victorville needs to know is that we're paying for 60% of everything that agency does. 60% of the flow into that treatment facility comes from the citizens of Victorville. 15% from Apple Valley and Hesperia, more or less, I don't know, 5 or 10 from Victorville. I don't know how my math is at this moment, but we pay for almost, we just pay the lion's share of everything. If we had contractors or staff coming to this council with change orders like that on a project of that magnitude, we'd be looking for new city managers, new project managers, new department. I mean, it just would not happen in this city. And it happens almost on everything they touch. They have planned to spend $80 million on those 2 sub-regional plants. Let me give you an idea. $80 million to build 2 skimming plants, one in Apple Valley, one in Hesperia. They're going to skim, not process, they're going to skim off the water 1 million gallons per day and send everything else down to the main plant. You can spend $80 million. We spent $35 million building a full processing plant at the base that processes 2 million gallons a day and does it completely. Now, their plan is to spend 80. If they do it for less than 100, if they do it for less than 100, I'll be stunned. I guess I'm venting. I want the council to know what I'm dealing with over there because we don't talk about it very much. But nobody is accountable as far as I can see. And I'm just appalled. And we should all be appalled. And nobody votes for anybody on that board except when you elect me as a council member and then I'm a representative. It's a JPA. It's probably the worst form of governance anybody's ever dreamed up. But anyway, that's where we are, and I'm going to vote against. I'm going to make everybody mad, but they'll pass it anyway. I'm sure of it. But
Brian.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kennedy. I appreciate you representing us well there, and it's frustrating that you have to vote no on a change order that where the other 3 members vote yes, and it has absolutely no effect on their city, municipality, or county. It just doesn't make any sense. What's going on in our own city in Old Town Victorville is a travesty. I said it before, I'll say it again. I think what's going on down there is just sad, and we're seeing businesses go out of business as a result of it. And, based upon your comments tonight, it just makes me think we ought to have a larger discussion here at this council. I mean, do we want to continue down this path where when they want to do a project in our city, we just have to allow them to do it, and even if we don't agree with it, they're just going to, tear up our roads, tear up underneath our underground and do whatever they want and spend our money recklessly, because that's what's going on. They're spending our money recklessly. What has gone on with this project is just unheard of. I couldn't agree with you more. Doug, if this was going on in our city, you'd lose your job. I mean, this is just, it's gotten to a point, I think this council needs to have a larger discussion on that. So to that point, I think it's appropriate that we agendize it if the rest of the council is okay with that.
By the way, let me correct myself. I think the change order we talked about last month was not $1 million, and it had to do, I don't remember what the amount was, but it was another change order on the 2 sub-regionals. It wasn't a change order on this project, but the ones Thursday are all change orders on this project. I mean, there's so many of them you can't even keep track of.
It's a culture there. Doug, in all the events you listed, you failed to list the 20th anniversary of the Route 66 Museum this Saturday. And I believe, is your car going to be in that?
2 of them.
Okay, you're going to have 2 cars in that. So I'll let you talk about that more. The only other thing I wanted to mention is my compliments to staff, Mr. Metzler, and the rest of SCLA. Agenda item D3, which we took advantage of an opportunity, and the FAA is actually recognizing the city, recognizing SCLA, because we have, projects ready to go. And they are running into, situations where they can't actually give the money that they've awarded to other projects throughout the nation because they're not ready. They can't get built, whatever the reason is. We're ready to go. On a regular basis, we are ready to go. And here's another example of a great victory that you guys have had. And I just can imagine we're going to continue to see this over the next couple of years because the FAA, they recognize us. They go, when they have this money that they can't get spent, guess where they're going to put it? In Victorville. Enough said.
There's several other federal agencies that have done that as well. I know there's been some housing grants that we've received simply because we were efficient in using the monies that we got, and other communities that were not lost the money, and we ultimately gained as a result.
You could use it to pay down the debt, but that's too much to ask for.
Well, in regard to the activity Saturday, the downtown Route 66 group is having a car show. I know there are a lot of things going on this time of year when the heat diminishes. All the communities and the cities in this valley start scheduling a lot of activities. And on Saturdays, there are generally at least 3 major events going on, and sometimes more. But I would hope that Victorville support the downtown, the old town, the car show. I think it's the support will be appreciated by all those individuals who are trying to save that area. We also have, back to the larger discussion in regard to the BVWRA, because of the tens of millions of dollars being expended, and because of the tab that our citizens, homeowners, taxpayers are paying, I do believe that it's time to schedule this. I'd like the council to agree to set a time aside where it can be covered, maybe not in its entirety because that would be a long thing, but we will shortchange ourselves and the public who needs to get this information if we try to do it in conjunction with a regular agenda. And I know we're all busy, but I would hope that we could find a time because it's very, very involved, very, very expensive, and we normally don't hear too much about it because we have our representatives that go and represent the city. Tonight we have heard about Sandbag and the good work that Mr. McEachran is doing and some of the items that he is dealing with, but he is the city's representative on that. And then we've heard from Mr. Kennedy on the Victor Valley wastewater. These are very important items. The Sandbag issues are for our roads and streets and the coordination, but the BVWRA is for the sewage and the treatment of it, reclaiming the water and the uses. And this is important, it's expensive, and I think deserves a discussion. So I'd ask the city council if they would agree that we have the clerk poll the council members on a night or a late afternoon or an evening or whatever is appropriate, that we can have a full presentation from our staff, who's been very involved, and we do own and operate our own plant. And they do attend the VVWRE meeting, and they're on the technical committee of the Victor Valley Wastewater Authority. So I think it's important that we do that. I'll leave it up to the rest of the council, but this is important. This is very important. So, car show, the other item that I had, Saturday, don't forget, we're having cleanup Saturday. And I've read conflicting stories in regard to the Sheriff's Department provides prisoners, and because of the liability or the insurance, we stopped it. But Mr. Lovingood said he thought that had been overcome. And so staff, someone, can we get briefed on whether or not that's available? Because while I really applaud everyone who's going to help clean up Saturday, we need a lot more. And if we can get a crew that under supervision of Public Works, if it can work out, we have a really messy city. I mean, I can't help but believe that people are throwing trash out the window on purpose. But I know it's not citizens from Victorville. But it's terrible. We need to get it cleaned up. And Doug, do you know if that's been worked out or not?
We opted out when the county attempted to shift the risk management over from the county to the city. Effectively, right now, communities who have opted in to that program using prisoners to help do cleanups. If a prisoner were to injure himself or herself, they could then file a workers' comp claim against that agency and potentially receive tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars due to injuries caused while helping to clean up. It's something that came to us, I want to say, March of this year, and ultimately the risk, in my opinion, proved too great, so we opted out of it. If the county is interested in continuing that program and retaining that risk, we would be open to it. Having worked, I don't want to say alongside because they don't allow that, but having worked on a cleanup with the crews of prisoners, I can tell you they are not efficient. They have zero desire to be there. They're simply there to avoid sitting in a jail cell at Glen Helen or some other facility. And they have zero motivation to actually clean up. So anytime the code enforcement officer or the public works person is not watching them, they tend to stand around a lot. So the work they did was substandard at best. And what we've chosen to do is, rather than take a risk on a workers' comp claim, monies that would have otherwise been set aside for that workers' comp claim, we've hired individuals in our community services department, part-time people who are more efficient and are more diligent about their work and can be fired if they are not. So if there's some new opportunity with the Sheriff's Department, I'd be happy to take a look at it. My fear, and we've had unfortunately 2 claims that got relatively sizable, considering someone went from no pay to a workers' comp claim for, the last one I saw was $45,000. The risk is that if the person who's working in lieu of jail time is in a job and they are then off work because of an injury that happened, or maybe didn't happen but is claimed, while they're working for the city of Victorville as a prisoner, they can get compensated for missed time at work, as well as the injury compensation. If they are permanently injured, it can be very sizable. Unfortunately, we've seen with some of the other programs and new changes in law that the folks that have been sentenced have a very effective network of information, and my prediction was and still is that once one prisoner gets a sizable check, $100,000 or $200,000, suddenly many more of those prisoners are going to end up with mysterious injuries that happen to occur while assisting these other communities. I don't know of a resolution to that. I think that since the county currently would carry that risk for the prisoners, and it's Mr. Lovingood is having them do work in the county area, the county retains that risk, so there's no change in risk. But barring some change on the county's part, I would not be in a position to recommend that we change our stance on that issue.
Well, I think we can check. There may be a misunderstanding. Mr. Lovingood seemed to think that they had worked out some of the problems with that. We cannot beat volunteers. We know that. And probably the next best thing is part-time, where at least they receive some kind of an income. And I know there's a lot of people who would like to have part-time work. There's two sides. I know the state fire is using prisoners with some success and some problems. It's worth looking into. We've got to clean up the trash. It's just a magnet for more trash. And I think once we can get it cleaned up somehow, some way, we need to look at all the possibilities that we have. I don't have any other information. Thank you all for coming to this meeting, and we will see you in 2 weeks or whatever the next date is.
November 3rd.
November 3rd. Thank you for coming, folks.